My name is Isabella, and I was 31 years old when I learned that being kind does not always mean people will be kind to you. I had been married to my husband, Maxwell, for 3 years. Maxwell was a good man. He worked hard, loved me, and always tried to make me smile after a long day. But there was one person I could never make happy: his mother, Elizabeth. From the first day I met Elizabeth, I knew she did not like me. She smiled at me, but her smile never reached her eyes. "You are very pretty," she said the first time I visited her house. Then she looked at my simple dress and added, "Maxwell could have married someone with a better sense of style." I gave a nervous laugh. I thought she was joking. I was wrong. Still, I tried very hard to become a good daughter-in-law. I brought her flowers on her birthday. I called her every Sunday. When she was sick, I visited her and brought her groceries. I never asked Maxwell to choose between us. I only wanted Elizabeth to accept me. Then, one cold Monday morning, Maxwell came home from work with some bad news. "My mom isn't feeling well," he said. "The doctor wants her to rest for a few weeks." I looked at him. "Is she okay?" "She will be fine, but she needs someone to help her at home." Maxwell held my hand. "Isabella, would you stay with her for a little while? I have to travel for work. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks." I knew exactly what he was asking. He wanted me to take care of his mother. I smiled. "Of course. She's your mom." The next morning, I packed a small suitcase and went to Elizabeth's house. When I arrived, Elizabeth was sitting on the sofa with a blanket around her shoulders. "You came?" she asked. "Yes. Maxwell asked me to stay with you." She looked at my suitcase. "How long?" "Maybe 2 or 3 weeks." She sighed. "Well, I suppose that is enough time to see if you can actually be useful." I stood there quietly. I told myself not to take her words personally. That first day, I cleaned the kitchen, washed the dishes, did the laundry, and cooked dinner. After dinner, Elizabeth looked at her plate. "This chicken is too dry." "Oh, I'm sorry. I can make something else." She shook her head. "No, I'm not hungry anymore." I felt a small pain in my chest, but I said nothing. The next morning, Elizabeth woke me at 6 o'clock. "Isabella." I quickly got out of bed. "What happened? Where is my breakfast?" I looked at the clock. "It is 6 o'clock in the morning." "I know what time it is." I went to the kitchen and made eggs, toast, and coffee. After breakfast, Elizabeth handed me a list. "Go to the store. I need these things." I looked at the long list. "Sure." Then she added, "And clean the upstairs bathroom before you leave." I nodded. "Okay." That afternoon, I returned with all the groceries. Elizabeth looked through the bags. "You forgot the good coffee." "I didn't see it at the store." "You should have looked harder." I lowered my eyes. "I'm sorry." That night, I sat alone on the edge of the guest bed. My feet hurt. My hands smelled like soap. I looked at my wedding ring and thought about Maxwell. I wanted to call him. I wanted to tell him everything. But when he called that night, he sounded tired. "How is Mom?" he asked. I forced a smile, even though he could not see me. "She is fine. And you?" I looked around the small room. "I'm fine too." I said those words because I loved my husband. I thought staying quiet would protect our marriage. I did not know that my silence would soon make Elizabeth believe she could treat me however she wanted. The next morning, Elizabeth woke me before sunrise again. "Isabella, are you still sleeping?" I opened my eyes and looked at the clock. It was 5:40 a.m. I slowly got out of bed. "I'm coming." When I entered the kitchen, Elizabeth was already sitting at the table. "My coffee is late," she said. "I'm sorry." I quickly made her coffee. Then she gave me another list: breakfast, laundry, cleaning, groceries, and my medicine. "And don't forget to change the sheets in my room." I looked at the list. There were more than 10 things written on it. I took a deep breath. Okay. I wanted to be a good wife. I wanted to be a good daughter-in-law. So I did everything. I cooked breakfast. I washed the dishes. I cleaned the bathrooms. I washed the clothes. I went to the grocery store. I picked up her medicine. Then I came home and cooked lunch. By the time I finished, my back hurt. But Elizabeth did not say thank you. Instead, she looked around the kitchen. "You missed a spot." She pointed at the floor. I looked down. There was a tiny piece of food near the table. "I'll clean it," I said. Elizabeth shook her head. "You need to pay more attention." I quietly picked it up. Days passed like this. Every morning, Elizabeth found another job for me. Sometimes she asked me to iron her clothes. Sometimes she wanted me to clean her bedroom again. Once, she asked me to drive 20 minutes just to buy a special kind of bread. When I came back, she looked at me and asked, "Why did it take so long?" "There was traffic." "You always have an excuse." I said nothing. I was slowly starting to feel like a stranger in my own life. At night, I called Maxwell. "Hi, sweetheart," he said. His voice always made me feel a little better. "How are you doing?" "I'm okay." "How is Mom?" "She is getting better." "That's good. Thank you for taking care of her, Isabella. I really appreciate it." I closed my eyes. "You don't have to thank me. I'll be home soon. I miss you." "I miss you too." After we ended the call, I stared at my phone. I wanted to tell him the truth, but I couldn't. I was afraid he would think I hated his mother. I was afraid he would feel guilty for leaving me there. So, I stayed quiet. One afternoon, I was carrying a basket of clean clothes upstairs when Elizabeth stopped me. "Isabella." I turned around. "Yes." "Why haven't you cleaned the windows?" "I was going to do them tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" She gave a small laugh. "You have plenty of time. You're not working, remember?" I looked at her. "I still have a lot to do." She stepped closer. "You are my son's wife. You should be happy to help his mother." Her words hurt me. "I am happy to help." "Then stop complaining." I had not even complained, but I did not defend myself. I simply carried the clothes upstairs. That evening, I went into the bathroom and locked the door. I sat on the floor and covered my face with my hands. For the first time, I cried quietly. I didn't want Elizabeth to hear me. I didn't want Maxwell to know. I didn't want anyone to know. I wiped my tears and looked at myself in the mirror. I could barely recognize the woman looking back at me. My hair was messy. My eyes were tired. I looked completely exhausted. Then I heard Elizabeth calling me from downstairs. Isabella. I quickly stood up. What? Come here. I need you. I took a deep breath. I opened the door and walked downstairs. Elizabeth was holding a large pile of clothes. Fold these before you go to bed. I looked at the clock. It was almost 10 p.m. I wanted to say no. I wanted to say, I'm tired. But the words stayed inside me. So, I took the clothes. Okay. That night, while I folded Elizabeth's clothes, I looked at my wedding ring again. I remembered the woman I had been before I came to this house. I used to laugh more. I used to sing while cooking. I used to feel proud of myself. Now I was afraid to sit down. I was afraid to rest. I was afraid to say no. Then Elizabeth walked into the room. She looked at me and said something that finally broke the little patience I had left. Remember, Isabella, she said coldly. You are lucky my son married you. I stopped folding the clothes. For a few seconds, I could not speak. My hands were still holding one of her shirts. I wanted to cry. I wanted to shout. But instead, I quietly asked, why do you say things like that to me? Elizabeth looked surprised. Excuse me. I have done everything you asked me to do. She crossed her arms. I stood there quietly, waiting for her answer. I looked at Elizabeth. She crossed her arms. You're acting like I asked you to do something terrible. I never said that. But your face says it. I put her shirt down. I came here because you were sick. I wanted to help you. Elizabeth looked at me. And I allowed you to stay in my house. Her words hurt more than I expected. I looked around the room. This is your house, Elizabeth. I know. Then remember your place. My eyes filled with tears. My place. Yes, you are my son's wife. You should know how to take care of a family. I took a slow breath. I have been taking care of this house every day. She answered, you should be grateful. I could not believe what I was hearing. For weeks, I had cleaned the house, cooked every meal, bought groceries, washed clothes, and made sure she took her medicine. I had hardly slept. I had hardly talked to my husband. And somehow, I was still not good enough. I'm tired, I finally said. Elizabeth laughed. Everyone is tired. I need a little rest. You can rest after your work is finished. Something inside me finally broke. I am not your servant. The room became silent. Elizabeth stared at me. What did you say? I swallowed hard. I said, I'm not your servant. Her face turned red. How dare you talk to me like that? I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. She quickly picked up her phone. Fine. I'll call Maxwell. My heart sank. Please don't. I'm going to tell my son how you've been treating me. I stared at her. How I've been treating you. Yes, you've become rude and lazy. I shook my head. That isn't true. Suddenly, Elizabeth started crying. I knew you never wanted me here. I felt helpless. I knew exactly what she was doing. She was trying to make herself look like the victim. I reached for my phone. I'll call Maxwell myself. Before I could unlock it, We heard the front door open. Elizabeth stopped crying. I froze. A man's voice came from the hallway. Mom. My heart started beating fast. It was Maxwell. I looked at Elizabeth. She quickly wiped her face. Maxwell, she called. He walked into the room with a small suitcase in his hand. He looked tired, but his smile disappeared when he saw us. What happened? Elizabeth walked toward him. Nothing, honey. Mom, why are you crying? She looked at me. Your wife is angry with me. Maxwell turned to me. Isabella. I couldn't speak. My eyes filled with tears. He put down his suitcase. Isabella, what's going on? Elizabeth quickly interrupted. She doesn't want to help me anymore. Maxwell looked at his mother. What do you mean? She says she's tired of taking care of me. I looked at Maxwell. That's not what happened. Elizabeth shook her head. She has been complaining about everything. Maxwell became quiet. Then he looked around the room. There were piles of laundry. The sink was full of dishes. Elizabeth's medicine was neatly arranged on the table. There were grocery bags near the kitchen. Then he looked at me. My hair was messy. My face looked pale. My hands were red from washing clothes. He slowly walked toward me. Isabella. I looked down. I'm sorry. He frowned. For what? I started crying. I didn't want to cause problems between you and your mom. Maxwell's face changed. Tell me the truth. I wiped my tears. For weeks, I had protected everyone except myself. But this time, I couldn't stay silent. I looked at Maxwell through my tears. For a moment, I was afraid to speak. Then I took a deep breath. I did everything your mom asked me to do. I cooked. I cleaned. I washed her clothes. I bought groceries. I picked up her medicine. I did everything because I wanted to help her. Maxwell listened quietly. I never complained because I didn't want you to worry. I didn't want you to think I hated your mother. Elizabeth stood behind him. Maxwell, she's making everything sound worse than it was. He turned toward her. Mom, please let her finish. Elizabeth became silent. I continued. I was tired all the time. Sometimes I cried in the bathroom because I didn't want you to hear me. I kept telling you I was okay, but I wasn't. Maxwell looked at my hands. They were red and dry from weeks of cleaning. His eyes slowly filled with tears. Why didn't you tell me? I wiped my tears and said, because I knew how much you loved your mother. Maxwell shook his head. That doesn't mean you had to suffer for me. Elizabeth suddenly sat down. The anger was gone from her face. Now she looked very tired and old. She quietly said, I never wanted things to become like this. Maxwell looked at her. Then why did you treat Isabella this way? Elizabeth looked at me. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then tears rolled down her cheeks. I was afraid. Maxwell looked confused. Afraid of what? Afraid of losing you. She looked at Maxwell. After your father died, you became the most important person in my life. Then you married Isabella, and I felt like you didn't need me anymore. I slowly started to feel less angry. I finally understood that Elizabeth was hurting too. But her pain did not make her behavior right. Elizabeth looked at me. I thought if I made you work hard for my love and approval, you would try harder to become part of this family. I shook my head. I was already trying every day. I know, she whispered. Then she said something I never expected to hear. I am sorry, Isabella. I looked at her. Those 3 simple words meant a lot to me. I did not forgive her immediately. I needed time. So I simply said, "Thank you for saying that." Maxwell came over and held my hand. "You are my wife," he said. "You should never feel like a servant in my family." I started crying again, but these tears were different. They were not tears of loneliness. They were tears of relief. That evening, Maxwell and I went back to our home. For the first time in weeks, I slept in my own bed beside my husband. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee. Maxwell was standing in the kitchen with a smile on his face. "Breakfast is ready." I laughed. "Yes, please." He put a plate in front of me and then sat beside me. "We need to talk about something." I looked at him. "What is it?" He said, "From now on, you don't have to prove anything to anyone." I smiled. "I know." A few weeks later, Elizabeth came to our house. She was holding a small box. Inside was an old family photo. She handed it to me. "I want you to have this." I looked at the picture. It showed Maxwell as a little boy standing beside his parents. Elizabeth gave me a sad smile. "I want you to be in our next family picture too." I hugged her. It was not a perfect hug. It did not erase all the pain from the past. But it was a new beginning. I learned something very important from that difficult time. Being a good person does not mean allowing someone to disrespect you. You can love someone and still have boundaries. You can forgive someone without forgetting what happened. And you should never destroy yourself just to prove that you belong to a family. I used to think being a good daughter-in-law meant saying yes to everything. Now I know the truth. A family should never have a servant. A family should have love. It should have respect. And people should care enough about each other to listen when someone finally says, "I am hurting."